Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to episode 6 of the Normalized Money Show. My name is Kirsten Vanderjack, and I have Julie on. Hello, Julie.
Hi, everyone. Julie Ferraro. I'm a law enforcement, part of the Drug, Alcohol, and Veterans Court. And happy to be here today. What's our topic today? What are we learning about?
So we are going to spend the next few minutes talking about what does age 80 look like for everyone. This is one of the topics that we discuss in the night class. And the goal is to think about when you're 80 years old, what does your life look like in the past? And the reason that this is important to money is because if you try and think of life in hindsight, would you have been divorced once, twice, thrice? Would you have 4 kids? Would you have 1 kid? Would you have 0 children? And what would your retirement look like? Would you have retired at age 40 and traveled the world? Or would you have worked your life away because you did not think long term? So what do you think, Julie?
I think this is very important to think about, especially when you're younger, because I think it's like, think of that analogy that if we go out into the ocean on a ship and we don't have any direction and we just let our ship go, we don't really know where we're going to end up. And I think a lot of times, we hit a lot more adversities in life, and especially with money. And money holds us back, I think, a lot of times when we don't have an idea of what type of things do we like our hearts really want.
Agreed. And I think that when you're 15, 16, and through the age of 25 or maybe 35, you're not thinking long term, which is perfectly fine until it's not. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm 40. And what have I been doing the last 20 years? Am I on track? Am I married? Did I have the kids? And so this is important to talking about having a plan when you graduate high school, or just if you are an adult who's maybe thinking of a career change, or you're coming out of a divorce or drug and alcohol recovery, and you're thinking, right now I'm such and such age. If I were going to be 80 years old, what do I want that to look like? And then you get out a piece of paper. That's the lesson for today. You get out a piece of paper and you actually write that down backwards. So I'm 80, and now let's look at 10-year chapters. So what does age 71 to 80 look like? Are you retired, traveling, sitting on your porch, watching the sun come up and go down with someone you love? Do you have grandkids? Do you have kids? Is everyone healthy, or are they unhealthy and they are hooked up to breathing machines and they are going to the hospital every other day to refill their breathing tank? I mean, really, what does it look like for you?
Right. And I found it very interesting in that some of the terminology that you use, that even though the kids, when they're younger, they weren't thinking about the future, it became a point where they went back and said, well, if I would have known what I know now, I maybe wouldn't have done that. Right. And I think we all do that. We all, whether it be, like a life-changing event that we have, or we have something that happens to us, even, I mean, obviously I deal with traumatic events, right? So people that have traumatic events are kind of forced to change sometimes too. So it's not just some of the life events that we have, or getting older. It's when we're forced to think about that stuff and come up with a different plan, right? So I think it's very important for people, especially when it comes to finances, that it's not just I didn't do it because I didn't have money. I think that people need to really think about this and think about it backwards, right? Because when we think about things forward, we always say, oh, I want to do that, but I can't do that because I don't have this, or I can't do that because I don't have the education for it, or I don't have, whatever excuse they can come up with. So yeah, if you go backwards, don't you think it's a little bit easier to like kind of see how things can get to where you want it to be?
Yes, I think so. And that's why we're going to start with the end in mind, which is what we do in the night class. And so there's this calculator. It's called the FIRE calculator. And I have it up here on the screen. I just want to show everyone that you can actually Google this, but we'll drop the link below this YouTube video. And you put in your age, right? So whatever your age is, and then you put in maybe an idea of your annual income. I'm not going to disclose my annual income, but let me just use 100,000 for the purpose of the example. Let me use annual expenses. Maybe they're 50,000 a year, which is would be pretty low. If you have children, and mortgage or rent, and you're eating, we know groceries are very expensive, utilities are expensive. And so you put in your net worth because it's going to look at if you're invested at some kind of a percentage. So maybe you have, I don't know, $20,000. We're just going to leave that. Maybe that was an inheritance or 401k or something. And so let's look at asset allocation here. And you can put this in and put, oh, I have no money in stocks. I have no money in bonds. I have 100% cash, which is not good right now because of the interest rates on a savings account. But you can put in your expected rate of return. And so on stocks, you don't really know what that is. On bonds, you can figure that out. On cash, with inflation and other things, you might be negative. You'll have to consider that. Now, Julie, you and I talk about investing in real estate. And so let's just consider mortgage notes at 10% on, we're going to call it cash, but really it's real estate investing in mortgage notes. And so let's say that we take that $20,000 and we buy a mortgage note and lock that in at 10% interest rate on like a land development project or something. So what this tells me is that I can achieve financial independence in 12 years by age 52. And so this FIRE calculator, playing with FIRE, is telling me that essentially I can keep my life going if I have it invested like this.
So you basically, when let's talk about this for a minute, and this is something maybe we can talk about on the side at some point, is living paycheck to paycheck, right? And how do we not live paycheck to paycheck, or what are some of the strategies we can do that if I'm already in a situation where I'm getting a divorce, or I have a drug problem and I'm fixing myself and I'm in debt, what are some of the strategies that we can do that are different to try to not live paycheck to paycheck? And it's not just being frugal, but we can touch on that later. But you're basically saying is that don't get in that position, right? Start looking at what you've got and start using it to your advantage now to make it compound later in life, that you're not having to work so hard.
Yeah, you have this golden opportunity when you maybe have a year or two to take discretionary income because maybe you're not overwhelmed with debt for a period of time and you have some income coming in, or maybe you come into some money, and making that work is key, which is why we teach this channel, and also why we teach Strength Finders, which is, I think, the very first episode that we did here in these short classes. Once you know what your strength is, and if you're willing to learn a little bit about money and get invested, you have to make that money work for you. And so this is a really great starting point, is to look at the FIRE calculator and then just to throw in some information, right? What do you want your annual income to be, or what is it currently? And same thing with the expenses. And maybe it's only for 1 year. However, if you can drive to make that indefinitely, then you can see how your money starts to compound in savings. And so these little glimpses of 1 or 2 years where you have more income coming in than you have expenses, because maybe you live in a shared house, right? Your roommate housing, or you're bunking up with parents, you're living with your parents for a little bit. Those are the critical times to put together the budget and to think, when I'm 80, if I've got 8 10-year chapters, what does that look like for me so I don't just work until I die?
Yep. I think that this is something that, obviously we're building on each class, right? And each time we're giving them another tool that they can use to try to look at what their situation is now and how they can make it better, not just look down at, oh, I can't do it or I don't know what to do.
Absolutely. So, hey, we're at the 10-minute mark right now. The next class that we're going to do is around the cost of children. So, if you don't have kids yet, or if you want to look at budgeting around childcare and things like that, it's going to be very informative to talk about that. A lot of people in our night class, when they graduate, they actually are able to decide how many children that they're going to have, because when they're 80, they want to have looked at like, oh wow, one child cost me $500,000, because of all the things that go into that. And do you have the time, right? And the patience. And anyway, we need to just have these hard conversations that maybe the schools aren't having, parents and grandparents maybe aren't able to have, but we're going to have them on this show. So,
Well, and this, like I said, this is just some of the beginning tools. So yeah, it gets better and better. If you like the content that you see here, share it with someone. If you like and are interested in trying to do a couple of these things to see how it would turn out if you put these in the calculator, like and subscribe, make comments below. We'll always answer them, and have a great week.
all right. See you next week. Bye bye.